Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball Podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. If you're watching live on YouTube, please smash the like button like you're Brandon Davies. You have consent, and while you're smashing, let me tell you what we're going to have going on for the next 10 weeks. It's called the Summer Shootaround. It's a series during which we're going to focus on 20 notable teams over a span of 10 weeks. 2 per week, 20 teams in 10 weeks, and we're going to do the schools in alphabetical order, which means we're starting today with Alabama. Crimson Tide, coming off a season where they went 19-14, got a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament, lost to Notre Dame in the round of 64. Actually finished the season on a 4-game losing streak, but still finished ranked 28th at KenPom. If you remember, Alabama was one of the weirdest teams in the country last season. Beat Gonzaga, Houston, Baylor, Tennessee, but lost to Iona, Missouri, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Put another way, the Crimson Tide beat 4 top 10 KenPom teams and lost to 4 sub-60 KenPom teams. They beat the team that finished first at KenPom, and they lost to the team that finished 219th at KenPom. Just all over the place, basically all season. From that team, they lost Jaden Shackelford, Keon Ellis, J.D. Davison, Juwan Gary. So 4 of the top 7 scorers. But they're bringing back Javon Quinnerly, Charles Bediako, Noah Gurley, Darius Miles. That's 4 of the top 8 scorers, although it should be noted that Quinnerly suffered a torn ACL in the NCAA tournament. Odds are he's not going to be available to start the season. Deadleg, I've got Alabama 21st in the top 25-1. Where are you at on the Crimson Tide?
Well, you covered a few things there that I was going to mention, but yeah, that Notre Dame loss, that was one where if you weren't like dialed into that game, and unless you were a fan of either of those teams or you you had money on the outcome because of the betting line, like that got lost amid the cacophony of those first 2 days, GP, because that was a 14-point Bama loss to Notre Dame. Just one of those. It's a classic example of every single tournament. We've mentioned this in the past, in March's past, where there are these teams that have interesting results and seasons for 4 months, and then they get to the tournament, and because of where the game lands on television, and it might not be a close game, they're just done and gone. Like they're out of there. You're like, oh damn, they made the tournament, and they're suddenly like, you look around the party, they're no longer there. Alabama is a vintage example of that. You don't even, unless you're a Bama fan or a Notre Dame fan that watched that game, you have probably no memory of even experiencing the Crimson Tide playing in this past season NCAA tournament. And they they basically lived up to the prophecy. They were considered one of the most erratic teams in the entire season, capable of beating some of the best teams in the country, capable of losing to plenty. And then they, kind of did a pratfall right there in the first round. Coming into next season, I'm actually surprised by that. I am undergoing my annual exercise of not looking at Parrish's top 25-1 in the offseason, not because I'm not interested in what he has to say. Quite the contrary. I don't want his rankings to subconsciously influence when I have to do my huge one in the fall. And so I always like to do mine and then go see where GPS. I mean, I know he's going to have Gonzaga 1, 2. I get that. But once you get down to like the teens and in the 20s, I'm a little curious. So I'm actually surprised to learn that you had Bama ranked in your top 25-1 as things stand right now, because the Quinnerly injury, that would probably be what, like, I don't think I'm going to put Bama top 30, and it will probably be because of the Quinnerly injury. Say that 3 times fast. I don't know when he'll return. Now, if he can get healthy, then they're going to have a real opportunity there. But between Shackelford, Ellis, Davison, Gary, you're losing 43, 44 points a game overall. Oates has done well, 61-36 through 3 seasons, with the first place finish 2 years ago, tied for 5th last season with that one and done NCAA tournament appearance. The big reason why GP has Alabama 21 is the class is ranked 3rd in the 247 composite, only behind Duke and Arkansas coming into the season. Obviously, Duke and Arkansas, both of whom will be featured in this series, have received plenty of buzz for their incoming freshman classes. It's not that Alabama hasn't, it just hasn't on that level. The Crimson Tide are just ahead of Kansas and Texas in the overall top 5 heading into next season. Again, this is a freshman class. The names to know are Brandon Miller and Jaden Bradley. Those are 2 5-star prospects, top 20 players. Brandon Miller is a top 10 player in the country. And this is the best class in Alabama history, I think. I mean, I went back and checked the 247 composite, GP. I don't know if you did the same thing. The next best class, they've got the 2000 class, I guess it was, with Gerald Wallace. Bama's ranked first, but there might be something in the system that maybe Alabama did genuinely have the best recruiting class in the country 22 years ago. And maybe that one, whoever else was with Gerald Wallace will qualify. But for the modern era, I guess, this is the best one they've ever had. In 2017, that class with Sexton, Petty, and Herb Jones, that was 8th overall. The 2001 class that had Mo Williams, that was a top 10 class. But this one is big time. And there's a couple of transfers that I know you're going to get to there. But I'm in, generally speaking, on Bama, GP. Quinnerly coming back, a top 40 team, solid NCAA tournament potential. I don't think a surefire NCAA tournament team, but we can get into the specific players on the roster. But I don't know. I would not buy into them, or at least as highly as you are here in the middle of the summer.
I love that you mentioned Gerald Wallace.
Yeah. Oh, what a baller. Massive baller.
How about this? Real quick aside, and I promise it'll be real quick. After my junior year of college, I get an internship at the Birmingham Post-Herald. It's the afternoon newspaper in Birmingham, Alabama. It doesn't even exist anymore. But like Paul Feinbaum,
afternoon newspaper, by the way, for all the youngins out there. We won't even get into
that. Yeah, they used to have a morning newspaper and an afternoon newspaper. And the Birmingham News was the morning, Birmingham Post-Herald afternoon. Paul Feinbaum was the columnist at the Post-Herald at the time.
This summer, Paramount Plus presents the Great Reality Escape.
Let's do it.
With new series.
It's time to celebrate! If you get thrown in, you gotta win.
And new seasons to escape to.
You just became my target. I have never seen such savages.
With attitudes.
Give me a damn pizza!
Competitions.
Survivor's ready!
And guilty pleasures you don't have to feel guilty about. Escape your everyday reality with our reality every day.
This is big.
Paramount Plus. Stream now.
So I get an assignment to tragically, there was this grassroots basketball team, like 15 and under team from Birmingham. And they were caravanning to Tuscaloosa, if I remember correctly, like, 4 cars following each other. And they got all the kids in it. And one of the cars blew a tire and the kid died, right? And so this is my assignment to go, hey, meet this coach, talk to these players, write about this incident. So I'll do my best. So I meet the coach, and he introduces me to his players, and I do the whole story. And he said, hey, but I want you to keep an eye going forward on this kid right here. This kid's got a chance to be special. His name's Gerald Wallace. He was like 15 years old. He ends up becoming the number 1 player in America. Also on that team, Jericho Cotchery, who went on to play in the NFL.
Here, love it. Wow.
And Mario Austin, who went on to play at Mississippi State. They were all on that Alabama, I think it was called the Alabama Ice 15 and under team, something like that. So Gerald Wallace made me think of that. Back to the current Crimson Tide. You mentioned the transfers. I love what Nate Oates did here. Went out and added Dominic Welch, who's a super senior transfer from St. Bonaventure, 6'5" guard, forward, sort of one of just 6'5" wing, but it could be the 3 probably. 12.3 points, 6 rebounds per game last season. Shot, and this is important because we're talking about Alabama, 37.4% from 3. They also add Mark Sears, transfer from Ohio, 19.6 points, 6 rebounds, 4.1 assists per game, shot 40.8% from 3 last season on 4.2 attempts per game. Why are those 3-point percentages important? Because it's Alabama. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. About 47% of their field goal attempts come from 3-point range. And so what Nate did is go out and add a couple of experienced, proven perimeter shooters. And so that's not just getting talent. That's getting talent that fits what it is you're trying to do, which is largely make shots from the 3-point line. So you got the 2 5-star freshmen, the 2 transfers, and then Bediako, who's a former 5-star center, had a whatever season as a freshman, but perhaps he takes that freshman to sophomore season jump. Undeniably talented. I'm a believer in Nate Oates. I'm a believer in this program. Alabama's going to look a lot different. A lot different. Like the players won't be recognizable to most people, but they're still talented. And I trust them to be good, to safely make the NCAA tournament again. And don't forget, Namari Burnett suffered a torn ACL, former 5-star guy, was not good in his first season at Texas Tech, transferred to Alabama, torn ACL last preseason. Last I heard, his rehab was going well, and he's on track to be ready to go, on opening night.
A couple things with Bama here. One, he's gone. It is what it is. J.D. Davison wound up getting picked 53rd overall. He certainly was projected to be more 20-40, 3 months ago. Winds up going 53rd. We'll see if it winds up working out for him or not. I believe Boston took him. I don't have his page up right now, but I'm pretty sure he went to Boston. If he was on, but the point I'm making is if he was on the team, if he had decided to come back, and if Quinnerly hadn't gotten hurt, then GP, this would be a surefire top 20 team heading in. I think Universal, that's not the case there. If Quinnerly was able to be healthy and make a jump to being like a true All-American level kind of player, then I think they'd have, potential Final Four ceiling. I don't know. I do like the core, and I think Gurley will probably take another jump in this final season. I like him a lot, and I know the staff really does as well. Oates has had really good offensive teams since he got here. He's done well overall. Briefly, this class is ranked 3rd. 2020 was 12th. 2021 was 14th. He has recruited well, and this is the high watermark to this point. But last season, no Herb Jones. They take a huge step back on defense, bigger than I even thought. I think that they expected them to. It wasn't a shock that they weren't as good because Jones is one of the more versatile defenders his final season of college, and that translated immediately to his first season in the NBA. But will guys like Welch and Sears make Bama better on defense? Will Sears, who was an all-MAC player, averaged almost 20 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, 41% three-point shooter, really, 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 really good mid-major player. Is he going to be able to step in to the Bama roster right away and make up for what they won't have with Quinnerly? It's going to be interesting. And I think Shackelford, who averaged 16.6 points per game last season, GP, if you watched, and I watched more than half of Bama's games easily. When you actually watched them play, it was clear that Shackelford affected that team's winning as much as any other player, beyond from reasons for how he shot the ball and how much he scored there. The Burnett mention is key. Maybe he is the guy that's kind of hiding in plain sight. When he comes back, maybe we're talking about the Tide a month into the season, Parrish, and your preseason prediction is right, if not low, and they are looking like a team that has top 15 kind of potential. But if that's going to be the case, Miller and Bradley probably have to be impact players almost immediately, and Miller's going to be a lot of fun. But Burnett as well, coming off the injury, can he live up to that in addition to Gurley overall? So yeah, I like this group. I mean, one of the reasons why we're doing the series is when we want to give some teams some real attention. There's a lot of intrigue. Bama, again, is an interesting program. If you're an Alabama fan and you're listening to this podcast, you probably quite enjoy your football team, and you have a bankable thing with that, right? Every single year you expect or hope to be playing in the national title game. With Bama basketball, it's a fun bonus. Oates has this thing going in a big way. And just a quick digression here, my favorite thing about Alabama in this entire offseason was the normally outspoken Nate Oates just kind of sheepishly sitting next to Nick Saban about a little over a month ago, when Saban went on that rant against Texas A&M, right? And Oates was sitting there at this whole event, but didn't say anything. But he happened to be I want to be sitting in the limo or the car service on the way back from that thing, because you got to figure Saban and Oates went together. I want to say it wasn't even in Tuscaloosa, it might have been in Birmingham or something like that. The idea that Oates, who certainly stepped in an entertaining way, the fact that he was just kind of sitting there with Saban when he went on that rant is one of my more favorite overlooked things of this offseason so far in college hoops.
I think even outspoken Nate Oates knows when King Nick is talking, you just let him go.
That's right.
You don't get in the way of that. One of the things I noticed as I was putting my notes together for this is that I have Alabama 21st in the country. Where do you think I have them if you go by the top 25 and 1 in the SEC? 21st in the country.
Okay, good question. Let me riff internally here. I'll say 1, 2. You got them 5?
6th.
6. They are the 6th. So you got them as the 6th best team in an SEC, which should be pretty solid yet again. 6 overall. Just as a reminder, as you do your rundown here, last season, SEC sent Auburn, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, LSU, and Bama to the NCAA tournament. It only sent 6 teams, but all 6 of those teams were seated between 2 and 6. So the top end of it was very, very good. Minimally, that should be the case again next season.
Yeah, I think the league's going to be strong again. I've got 3 SEC teams in the top 10. Number 4, Kentucky. Number 6, Arkansas. Number 9, Tennessee. I've got Auburn 13th, Texas A&M 18th, and Alabama at 21st. So both these things could be true. Nate Oates could legitimately have a top 20 team, but a team that doesn't finish in the top 5 of the SEC. or isn't one of the 5 best in the SEC. That's how strong the top of that league should be once again. But like I said, I like the roster. 2 5-star freshmen, 2 experienced, proven transfers. Bring back Bediako, the former 5-star center, and then you're going to get Quinnerly back at some point. You know, I don't think he'll be ready to start the season. The goal should be to have him back by end of December, January. I think that's a normal timetable. So there's a scenario where, Jaden Bradley has established himself as the real lead guard, run your team point guard on the roster. And then you bring back Quinnerly and you've got 2 high-level guards. There's just a lot of options. If Quinnerly is healthy by January and looking like himself. Remember, I think this is true. He was the preseason SEC Player of the Year last year.
I think you're right about that. And I remember disagreeing internally with it.
Right. I don't know that he should have been, but I think he was. So that's a real talented guy that if they get him back and are able to pair him with these transfers, Bediako and the 2 5-star freshmen, then Alabama's got a chance to be really good.
They got Rylan Griffin, who's also a 4-star level kind of player, and Noah Clowney right there as well. Those are the freshmen that are coming in that make up that highly ranked class there. And how that class stacks up in a very tough competitive SEC will also be interesting. Every single season that Oates has been there at Bama, and he hasn't been there long, but each of these past 3 seasons. Now this one, there's been some element to it that has been different. Season 1 is season 1. You get there after leaving from Buffalo. It went fine. They went 16-15, and then of course season ends. They wouldn't have qualified for the tournament anyway. Season 2, it's humongous. It's arguably the best season in Alabama men's basketball history. They get a 2 seed. They go 26-7. They make the Sweet 16, and they lose. I was there at Hinkle. Really one of the better games I saw in person in that tournament against UCLA. UCLA went nuts in the overtime to win by 10. But until that point, it was just a phenomenal game. Alabama was certainly capable of making a title game run with that team, that talent. They displayed that. And then last season, they're able to bring in a freshman with the hype of a Davison, and they bring back all this experienced talent after losing, but Oates sends a player to the NBA in Herb Jones. This season it's more, all right, the player that I think is most dependable, I'm not going to start the season with him, in Quinnerly. Gurley, who we really liked as a transfer, who was a small college transfer, can he grow into this big spot here? But you're also going to have a little bit of not an underdog role. You're not going to be predicted to or picked to win the league. You're not going to be predicted to finish first, second, third, maybe not even fourth, but you'll be firmly in the mix there. And for Alabama, these are, I'm not going to call these the golden years. I don't know about that because, better days could even be ahead, but you're looking at potentially having your best 3-season run since the heyday of Mark Gottfried. I mean, they went 26-7 2 years ago, 19-14 tournament. If they make it the tournament again this season, it'll mark the first time since 04, 05, 06, and that was actually a 5-year run that Gottfried did that. And in the midst of that 5-year run, Bama failed to make the second weekend, with the exception of 1 year. The Tide made the Elite Eight. I'm pretty sure that's a program record. Bama's never made a Final Four. Gottfried, as an 8 seed, got him to a regional final in 04. But Oates is, big picture commentary step back here. He was plucked from Buffalo and has basically done exactly what was hoped, if not more. And anything between Parrish, anything between a 4th and I think even a 7th place finish, even 7th place in this SEC, I think is acceptable and would qualify them for the NCAA tournament. I think they'll get there, but I've got a little bit of hesitancy based upon maybe relying on these freshmen. And then Quinnerly, when does he get fully healthy? Does he ever get truly fully healthy? Can they rely on him once they get to mid-January into February?
All right. Our goal is to keep the Summer Shootaround series episodes under 20 minutes. So let's make sure we get off to a nice start. Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Huck, Larnell. Thank you guys once again for listening to Eye on College Basketball Podcast. If you've not subscribed, please go subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a nice review. There's more of us than there are of them, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.